Hi there guys, my name is Jacob and welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video I am going to run you through my April solar stats, and it has been a fantastic month. We are finally back on track. January, February, March weren't particularly great, especially when compared to 2025, but April has really got us back on track, and I'm hopeful it has been the same for all of you guys watching. And remember, if you're someone like me who has got a solar panel and battery system installed at your house, let me know down in the comments what your stats look like for April. I always get excited reading through other people's stats and kind of comparing them to mine, seeing whether I did better or worse, because of course it does differ across the country. So if you're one of those people, remember to leave me a comment and let me know how your month was. And just for anyone who's never seen my channel before, I live in a semi-detached house in the West Midlands, and I've got 13 solar panels on my roof. They are 440 watts each, which totals 5.7 kilowatt hours of peak power. I've got a 5 kilowatt hybrid inverter. I've got a 9.5 kilowatt battery. They are both from GivEnergy. I've got a GivEnergy EV Charger, and of course I've got an EV as well, which is an MGZS EV. Now, I had this system installed in January of 2025 and it has been absolutely faultless. And I know obviously GivEnergy announced some very bad news recently that they've gone into administration, but in terms of the actual quality of the equipment, I personally cannot fault it. As I said, I've had no issues whatsoever since installation. It has just been a smooth ride and it's performed really well. So overall, I am really happy with my investment. And for anyone who is curious, because I always get asked this in the comments, how much did my system cost? It cost me a grand total of £9,000. Now, my energy provider is Octopus Energy, and the tariffs that I am on is Octopus Go for the energy that I take from the grid, and I'm on outgoing Octopus for the energy that I give to the grid. And for the month of April, I was on Octopus Go, which was 6.5 pence per kilowatt hour. Sadly, that has recently gone up as we're into May now, and it's now around 8.6 pence per kilowatt hour. So it has gone up a little bit. But as I said, for the month of April, it was 6.5 pence. And of course, that is absolutely dirt cheap when you're thinking about charging an EV and different things like that. It really is just so cheap compared to, of course, the normal variable tariffs, which are anywhere around the sort of 25 pence a kilowatt hour mark, which, you know, when you compare it to that, that is so expensive. And as well as using Optimus Energy, I use Axel Energy. And if you haven't heard of Axel Energy, they are basically a grid management program, and they help you make the most of your battery. And there's a number of providers, battery providers, that you have to be able to use Axel. And I'll leave a comment in the description box of this video just telling you exactly which batteries you have to have. But basically there's about 6 or 7, and if you've got one of those battery types, then you can sign up to Axel Energy and they will pay you, amazingly enough, £1 per kilowatt hour that you export to the grid in their sessions. And I've been using this for the past few months and it's worked out really good. And I know a few of you guys have been using it too, because I've actually had a few referrals. I get notified when when someone uses my link. And I just want to say a big thank you to the guys that have used that link so far. I get £25 when you use it, and you also get £25 too. So if you'd like to sign up to Axel, there will be a link in the description box of this video. And as I said, they pay you £1 per kilowatt hour that you export to the grid, as well as a £25 sign up bonus. So it really is worthwhile using it. Right then guys, let's get into the April solar stats. So total generation for the month of April was a whopping 756 kilowatt hours for the month. Now, when I compare that to April 2025, so a full 12 months ago, it is actually really similar to the month of April last year. Last year was 777 kilowatt hours. So roughly, it's about a 3% decrease on last year. But, you know, that can just be one day's difference. So it is very, very similar to last year's generation. And I'm really happy about that. Because as I said earlier, January, February, March have been a lot lower than last year, and April seems to have picked up the pace and kind of getting us back on track now. Hopefully going forward we can see these high numbers continuing, but who knows, we'll have to wait and see. But I've been very, very happy with April's total generation figure of 757 kilowatt hours for the month. Now, my best day was the 29th of April, and on that day I got 38.5 kilowatt hours in one day, which is a phenomenal figure for the size of system I have, which is 5.7. 38.5 kilowatt hours for a day is a figure that I don't see very often, I'll be honest. So really happy to see that. And there were a few days that got pretty close to that, but that was the best day of the month. The worst day, however, was the 14th, and that was just 4 kilowatt hours for the day. So you can see there's a big difference between the best day and the worst day, even in the month of April, which is, you know, generally a good month for solar. But of course, you still get grey, cloudy days where you don't get much generation. But thankfully, there were not many of those bad days at all throughout the month, which is why we got the really good total generation figure. Now, across the whole month, I have Optimisers attached to every panel that I have, and they just basically balance the system and save generation that ultimately would have been lost. And across the month, they saved me 10 kilowatt hours, and they are Tigo Optimisers. Now, I have mentioned this on the channel before. From an efficiency standpoint, I'm really glad that I had the Optimisers fitted, because ultimately they do make my system run as efficient as it can do, making sure that I don't lose energy when my panels get shaded. But from a payback point of view, and like a return on investment perspective, they're probably not worth it, if I'm honest. I can't remember the figure off the top of my head. However, the figure that I ultimately paid for 13 Optimisers, I think I worked it out. It's going to take a lot, many, many years for that figure to have been worth it. So purely on a return on investment perspective, they're probably not worth it. However, from the perspective of just wanting my system to be as efficient and well performing as possible, I am still glad I got them. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I know a lot of people say Optimisers aren't worth the money, or some people would argue they are, but that's just my perspective from my system. They do obviously make a difference, but in terms of whether they're worth the money that they cost, I guess that is open for discussion. Now, moving on to my energy costs for the month of April. Electricity, including the standing charge, I paid £37.94 for the month. And that was for taking 315 kilowatt hours from the grid. Now, almost 99%, probably even higher than that, was taken overnight at the cheap rate of 6.5 pence per kilowatt hour. There may have been a small amount of peak electricity used, and that happens generally when I'm cooking on an evening, because my inverter and battery, I think it's the battery actually that's restricted, it can only push out 3.6 kilowatt hours at any one time. So if I start using a lot of appliances in the house that are above 3.6 kilowatt hours, the grid will also kick in and supply the extra power. So I use a very, very, very small amount of peak electricity. As I said, 99% of all the energy I use is cheap overnight power. And that is, of course, how that figure is so low at just £37.94. Now, that also does cover not only charging my battery, but also charging my EV. And for the month of April, I have got down £9.10 is what I spent charging my EV. And I roughly did about 520 miles in that month. Now, 520 miles driven for a cost of approximately £9. Personally, I think that is incredible value for money. And, you know, the days when I used to drive my diesel car around used to cost me a fortune, you know, and now with the prices as they are, God knows how much it would cost me to be running my old diesel now. So I am so grateful that I switched to an EV late last year. It almost seems perfect timing. And yeah, it's just been phenomenal so far. And, you know, say what you like about MGs. I know, you know, they can be a controversial car with them being Chinese and quite a cheap kind of EV to get, I guess. People always seem to have an opinion on how good MGs are. But my personal opinion, I've owned it now for 7 months. And as I said before, it's an MG ZS EV. It's the long range model. It's the trophy edition, so it's the top of the range one. I've owned it for 7 months and it has just been a joy to own. I've had no issues with it whatsoever. It drives just so smoothly. It's just everything we need, to be honest. And as I said, I love driving it. It is by far the best car I've ever owned. Now, that isn't to say I've owned that many good cars, because I haven't. But this is by far the best car I've ever owned. And I think we'll be keeping it for quite some time. As I said, it's just been great so far, and it is cheap as chips to run. Gas costs for the month. Well, really, it was just the standing charge and a small amount of heating hot water for showers. And that was £14.19. So dirt cheap for gas. But as I say, we hardly use any. We had no central heating on throughout April, just used the gas for heating hot water. Now, moving on to the best part of the month, and the best figure, for me at least anyway, is of course export income. And for my export, as I said before, I'm on outgoing Octopus, which currently pays 12 pence per kilowatt hour. Now, I sent to the grid 785 kilowatt hours in the month. And that totaled a really amazing figure of £94.21. That is what Octopus paid me, not what I paid them. It's still amazing, even after this amount of time, that I can say that, you know, I'm generating upwards of nearly £100 of solar generation that I send to the grid, and that the energy company pays me. That I just still find that fact phenomenal. But as I said, £94.21 was my export income for the month of April. So as I'm sure you can quickly do some maths in your head and work out, we are looking at a really nice credit for the month of April. But that's not the only earnings that I got for the month of April, because as I mentioned earlier, I also use Axel Energy, and Axel ran 3 events in the month of April for my specific area. And over the course of those 3 events, I managed to earn £13.03. So not a massive figure, but certainly very welcome, considering I only had to send 13 kilowatt hours to the grid to get paid £13. So again, a really nice addition, and a very welcome addition, considering Octopus lowered the export payments from 15p to 12p. Axel kind of makes up the difference at the moment, so I'm really pleased about that. So ultimately, when I put all the costs together, and I add up the export income, the Axel income, minus off the other costs, we get to a really nice credit on my account, the first credit of 2026, of £55.11 for the month of April. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that is phenomenal. And I know it's only going to get better for the month of May, June, July, August. Probably drop off a little bit in September, but for the next few months, I am going to be looking at a credit on my account of probably £55 or more every single month. And as I say, that is my electric covered, my gas covered, that is my transport covered as well, because of course that includes charging my EV. So as you can see, having solar panels and a battery and, you know, some optimization with tariffs, it can make an absolute world of difference to your energy costs and energy usage. And that's why I pretty much tell everybody I know, if you can afford to get solar panels and a battery, I would absolutely go ahead and do it, because it's a life changer. It really is. Gone are the days where I'm paying Octopus, you know, £100 to £200 a month. Now they're paying me £55 for the month of April. Phenomenal. Now, If you are looking to change energy providers in the future, remember I do have an Optimisers Energy referral link that will be in the description box of this video, and you can get £50 of credit if you use it and switch energy providers to Octopus. And again, remember I've got the Axel link. If you sign up using my link, you'll get a £25 bonus, and of course you can participate in their generally weekly events. They normally run 3 or 4 events per month. Last month was 3, but hopefully going forward it'll be 3 or more. And also, very interestingly with Axel, they have said very soon, because obviously with the summer months approaching, there is going to be a heck of a lot of renewable energy on the grid, and actually too much. And what they have said they're going to do, similar to what Octopus do, where they do the free sessions, where they basically just give you free energy to take it from the grid. Axel apparently are going to pay us to take energy from the grid. So not only are they going to pay us to send energy to the grid when the grid needs it, they're actually going to pay us to take energy when the grid has too much of it. And apparently that is going to start in the next month or so, from what I hear. So if that happens, Axel could become even more lucrative. And, you know, being paid to take energy from the grid is something I never really thought would ever happen. But it looks imminent. So I'll keep you posted on that. If I hear any more or get confirmation of when the first event might take place, I'll let you guys know. But as I said, if you're not currently signed up with Axel and you would like to be, use the referral link in the description box of this video. Right then guys, if you made it this far, please consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button. And of course, leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of the video. And of course, share your own solar stats with me. Right then guys, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.